A celibate Korean millionaire, devoted to discipline and business, meets the vibrant Nigerian sister of his best friend during Seoul's sparkling Christmas season. Watch as their worlds collide in a magical journey of love, joy, and Christmas anticipation. The city of Seoul was already glowing. Strings of lights wrapped around tall buildings, Christmas songs floated through the streets, and the air carried the smell of roasted chestnuts. Snow fell lightly, covering the sidewalks in a soft white blanket. Jiwoo walked through the busy crowd, his face calm and serious as always. People turned their heads when he passed. Everyone knew him, the young millionaire who built a tech company from nothing. But what people whispered about the most was not just his money. It was his vow. No women, no romance, no distractions, he always told people when they asked. He lived with discipline, focusing only on work and family honor. Some called it strange, others called it wise. That night, as Jiwoo headed to his car, he saw a small choir singing in the square. Children in red scarves and green hats lifted their voices to the sky. He almost walked away, but then his eyes landed on her. Maria. She was laughing as she helped a little girl fix her scarf. Her hair was braided neatly, and her coat was bright red like Christmas itself. Her smile shone brighter than the lights hanging above them. Jiwoo paused without meaning to. Something inside him stirred, something he had locked away for years. He didn't know yet, but Maria was his best friend's younger sister. She had just returned to Seoul from Nigeria, bringing with her the warmth of home, family, and Christmas traditions that he had long forgotten. For the first time in a long while, Jiwoo felt something shift in his heart. He quickly turned away, his vow echoing in his head. But his eyes, they kept looking back. The next morning, Maria walked through the bustling market with her brother, Taehyun. She hummed softly, touching the Christmas decorations. "I miss this so much," she said. Taehyun smiled. "Seoul is still the same. Maybe busier during Christmas. But you haven't changed either." Maria laughed, picking up a shiny ornament shaped like a star. "Back home in Nigeria, Christmas is family, food, songs, and dance. I want to make this year special." As they turned the corner, she stopped. Standing there was Jiwoo. Tall, handsome, sharp-eyed, but cold like the winter air. "Maria," Taehyun said carefully, "that's Jiwoo. My best friend. We grew up together." Maria's eyes lit up. She extended her hand warmly. "Hello. I've heard about you." Jiwoo hesitated. His vow pulled him back, telling him not to get close. But Maria's energy was hard to resist. Slowly, he reached out and shook her hand. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. "Nice to meet you," Jiwoo said, his voice even. But inside, something was trembling. The days that followed were filled with Christmas preparation all around Seoul. Jiwoo tried to stay away, tried to bury himself in meetings and deadlines. But everywhere he went, Maria seemed to appear. At the community center, she was teaching children how to sing African Christmas songs. At the market, she was bargaining for spices and laughing with vendors. At the church, she was helping decorate the tall Christmas tree. And every time Jiwoo saw her, his heart fought with his vow. One evening, Taehyun dragged him to a small gathering. "We're rehearsing Christmas carols for the event," Taehyun explained. Jiwoo didn't want to go, but he couldn't refuse his best friend. When they entered, Maria was standing in the center, leading the song. Her voice was smooth, full of joy. The children clapped along. She saw Jiwoo and smiled brightly, waving him over. Jinwoo's heart skipped a beat. "No," he thought quickly. "I must not." But somehow his feet moved toward her. "Do you sing?" Maria asked, eyes playful. Jiwoo almost laughed. "Him? Sing?" He shook his head firmly. "Then clap," she teased, handing him a small bell. Everyone must join in. And so, for the first time in years, Jiwoo found himself laughing as he shook the little bell while Maria led the song. For that moment, he forgot about his vow. He forgot about his cold walls. He just saw her. One snowy evening, Maria was struggling to carry a big box of decorations to the community hall. Jiwoo was walking past when he saw her. "You'll hurt yourself," he said quickly, taking the box from her hands. Maria blinked, surprised. I didn't know the famous Jiwoo helps with decorations. He almost handed the box back, but instead, he walked beside her. It's heavy. Where do you need it? Maria grinned. Inside. We're decorating the hall for the Christmas Eve party. You should come. I don't, Jiwoo started, but she cut him off. You work too much, she said simply. Christmas is not about business. It's about people. About love. Her words hit him harder than he expected. Inside the hall, she climbed a ladder to hang tinsel. Jiwoo stood below, holding it steady. When she stretched out too far, she slipped just a little. His hands shot out and caught her waist, steadying her. For 1 second, their eyes met. Her laughter rang out softly, but Jinwoo's heart raced. That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Why did her smile stay in his mind? Why did her words burn in his chest? He had made a vow. But why did it feel like Maria was slowly breaking it without even trying? The next morning, the streets of Seoul were alive with music and color. Maria walked with a group of children carrying small drums. She was teaching them a Nigerian Christmas song, clapping her hands and laughing loudly. Her joy filled the air like sunshine breaking through clouds. Jiwoo, who was driving past, slowed his car without realizing. He rolled the window down, listening to her sing. The children's voices mixed with hers, creating a rhythm that made even strangers stop to watch. Something inside Jiwoo ached. He had lived so long with silence, only the sound of meetings, money, and contracts in his ears. Now, hearing Maria's voice, he wondered what he had been missing. Later that evening, he found himself at the same community hall again. He told himself it was only to check if Taehyun needed help. But when he entered, the first person he saw was Maria, standing by the big Christmas tree with her hands full of ribbons. Ah, Jiwoo. Maria called, her eyes sparkling. Come help me. He froze. I don't know how to decorate. That's perfect, Maria replied with a grin. I'll teach you. And so, she placed a ribbon in his hand, guiding his movements as they tied it to the tree. Her fingers brushed his lightly. The warmth stayed, even after she pulled away. Taehyun walked in just then and raised his eyebrow. You? Decorating? This is new. Jiwoo straightened quickly, stepping back. Just helping. Nothing more. Maria laughed softly, shaking her head. But inside, Jiwoo felt a battle raging. He had never let anyone this close. Why now? Why her? A few days later, Maria invited everyone to a charity event at the local orphanage. She asked Jiwoo to join, but he almost refused. I'm busy, he said automatically. Maria looked at him quietly. Busy building walls around yourself? She asked. Her words cut deeper than she knew. That night, Jiwoo couldn't sleep. He thought of her smile, her laughter, the way she made the children happy. Against his own rules, he showed up at the orphanage the next morning. The children ran to him immediately, curious about the tall man in the black coat. They tugged at his sleeves, asking him to play. Jiwoo froze, unsure what to do. Maria walked over, placing a Santa hat on his head. Relax, she whispered. Just be human for once. And for the first time, Jiwoo knelt on the floor with the kids, building a tower with blocks, listening to their laughter. He caught Maria watching him from across the room, her face soft, her eyes warm. Something dangerous was happening. His vow was shaking. One snowy night, Jiwoo sat alone in his car outside his company's tall glass building. He should have been inside, finishing the year's last contracts. Instead, he was holding a small piece of paper Maria had given him earlier. It was a simple invitation to the Christmas Eve festival at the community square. Don't hide from joy, she had written at the bottom with a smiley face. He leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes. Why was it so hard to stay away? Why did his chest feel heavy when he thought of not seeing her? He didn't notice Taehyun walking up to his car until he knocked on the window. Jiwoo lowered it, trying to act calm. Jiwoo, Taehyun said seriously, I know my sister. She has a big heart. But I don't want her hurt. You made a vow. Don't play with her feelings. Jiwoo opened his mouth to reply, but no words came. For the first time in years, he didn't know what he wanted more, his vow or her. The following days became harder. Rumors began spreading around the city. People whispered that the celibate millionaire was finally breaking his promise. Some said he was seen carrying boxes with Maria. Others said they saw him laughing with her in the market. At a dinner party, an older businessman leaned close and asked, "So, Jiwoo, is it true? Did a woman finally melt the ice?" Jinwoo's joy tightened. He stood up without answering, leaving the table in silence. But deep inside, he knew the answer. Yes, Maria was melting the ice. Maria, on the other hand, didn't care about rumors. She kept living fully, singing, decorating, and preparing for the Christmas Eve celebration. But one night, as she walked home through the snow, she found Jiwoo waiting by the corner. His face was tense, his eyes troubled. "Why do you keep pulling me in?" he asked, his voice low. Maria blinked, surprised. "Pulling you in? I'm just being myself." "You don't understand," he whispered. "I built my life on discipline, on rules, on a vow. And now what?" she asked gently, stepping closer. Jiwoo looked at her, his breath visible in the cold air. "Now I feel like everything I thought I wanted is slipping away because of you." Maria's eyes softened. She placed a hand on his arm. "Maybe it's not slipping away. Maybe it's changing into something better." For a moment, silence wrapped around them, broken only by the sound of falling snow. Jiwoo stared at her hand on his arm, then at her eyes. His heart pounded like a drum. But instead of speaking, he stepped back. "I can't," he whispered, before walking away. The snow kept falling on Seoul, blanketing the city in white. Maria wrapped her scarf tightly as she walked with her brother, Taehyun. He carried a bag of groceries while she hummed a soft Nigerian Christmas tune. "You know," Taehyun said suddenly, "people keep asking why you don't use your Korean name here." Maria rolled her eyes playfully. "Because Maria is who I am. That's what everyone called me in Nigeria. It feels like home." "But Appa gave you a Korean name too," Taehyun reminded. "Yes," she said softly. "And I love that part of me. But Nigeria is where I grew up, where I learned to sing, where I learned Christmas is more than decorations, it's family. So Maria stays, and besides you look more Korean than Nigerian, so don't compare us," she smiled. Taehyun smiled, but there was a shadow in his eyes. "Then you must remember, you're different here. People may not always understand." Maria laughed lightly. "That's fine. Let them not understand. I don't live for them." What she didn't say out loud was that she was beginning to understand Jiwoo in a way others didn't. She saw the man behind the vow, the boy who had buried himself in duty, and something about him pulled at her heart. That night, Jiwoo stood at the window of his penthouse, staring at the lights of Seoul. His mind kept replaying Maria's voice. Maybe it's not slipping away. Maybe it's changing into something better. He closed his eyes, remembering her smile. He hated how much he wanted to see it again. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from Taehyun. "Jiwoo, I trust you as my brother, but remember, Maria is not like other girls. She's warm, she's kind, but she's also fragile. Don't hurt her." Jiwoo tightened his grip on the phone. His vow echoed in his chest, but his heart whispered another truth. Maria was no distraction. She was life. The next day, Maria arrived at the hall early to set up Christmas lanterns. She was halfway up a ladder when she heard the door open. She turned, and there he was, Jiwoo, in his usual black coat, holding a box of lights. She blinked in surprise. "You came?" He placed the box on the floor, his voice steady. "You needed help." She tilted her head, smiling knowingly. "Or maybe you needed a reason to be here." Jiwoo said nothing. Instead, he climbed the ladder, taking the lantern from her hand. For the next hour, they worked side by side, hanging lanterns and fixing ribbons. Their fingers brushed again and again. Neither pulled away. When they finished, Maria stepped back, looking at the glowing hall. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Jiwoo didn't look at the decorations. He looked at her. Later that evening, they walked outside together. The streets were alive with music, laughter, and snowflakes swirling like tiny stars. Maria wrapped her arms around herself, shivering slightly. Without a word, Jiwoo slipped off his scarf and placed it gently around her neck. Maria's eyes widened. "But you'll be cold." "I'll manage," he said simply. For a moment, they walked in silence. Then Maria whispered, "You know, Jiwoo, you remind me of my father." He glanced at her, surprised. He was Korean. Very disciplined, very serious. But my mother, she was Nigerian. Full of fire, full of joy. When they came together, it was like winter and summer meeting. Strange at first, but somehow perfect. Her eyes softened. "That's what I see in you. Winter, waiting for summer to melt it." Jiwoo stopped walking, his chest tight. He wanted to say something, anything, but no words came. Instead, he just stared at her, as if searching for answers in her eyes. But the next day, everything became harder. At the company's Christmas charity gala, a group of wealthy men surrounded Jiwoo, their voices filled with mockery. "So, the celibate millionaire has found a woman," one sneered. "And not just any woman, a half-blood foreigner?" Jinwoo's jaw clenched. He wanted to defend Maria, but Taehyun was there, watching closely. When Maria arrived at the gala in her bright red dress, heads turned. Whispers followed her like shadows. Jiwoo saw the way she held her head high, smiling despite the stares. Pride swelled in his chest. But Taehyun's warning echoed, "Don't hurt her." Jiwoo felt trapped between two worlds, his vow, his loyalty to his best friend, and the powerful pull of Maria's laughter, her light, her warmth. The storm inside him grew louder, and Christmas was still days away. That night, Maria stood by the decorated Christmas tree in the gala hall, her fingers gently touching the ornaments. She smiled at the glowing lights, but her heart was heavy. She had noticed the whispers, the stares, the way people looked at her like she didn't belong. When Jiwoo finally walked over, she gave him a small smile. "Your world is different." Jinwoo's face softened. "It shouldn't be." Maria shook her head gently. "No, Jiwoo. It is. People see me and they don't see what you see. They see someone who doesn't fit." He wanted to tell her she fit perfectly in his thoughts, in his silence, in the spaces he had locked away for years. "You belong more than anyone here," he whispered. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world faded. But then Taehyun appeared, his face stern. "Maria," he said firmly, "I need to speak with you." She followed him outside, leaving Jiwoo standing alone by the tree, fighting the storm inside his chest. Outside, Taehyun's voice was low but sharp. "Be careful with Jiwoo." Maria frowned. "Appa, why are you acting like I don't know my own heart?" "Because I know him," Taehyun replied. "I know his vow. He doesn't let anyone in." "What if he breaks your heart?" Maria sighed. "You're protecting me, I understand. But maybe Jiwoo isn't the same man you think he is anymore. Maybe people change." Taehyun shook his head. "Not Jiwoo. His discipline is his life. His vow is his pride." Maria touched her brother's arm softly. "And what if love is stronger than his pride?" Taehyun had no answer. The next morning, Jiwoo sat at his office desk, staring at the endless contracts. His pen lay untouched. For years, this was his world. This was enough. But now, Maria's laughter kept breaking through the silence. Finally, he pushed the papers aside and stood. He drove through the snowy streets until he reached the community hall. Inside, Maria was teaching a group of children how to wrap gifts. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "You came again." Jiwoo nodded. "I wanted to help." She handed him a box of shiny wrapping paper. "Then sit. Fold like this." He sat awkwardly on the floor, trying to copy her movements. The paper tore under his fingers. The children giggled. Maria laughed so hard she nearly fell over. "Not like that," she said, covering his hands with hers to guide him. "Gentle, Jiwoo. Gentle." Her touch was light, but it burned through him like fire. He looked at her, his heart pounding. And in that small moment, he realized his vow had already begun to crumble. That evening, after the children left, Maria and Jiwoo stayed behind to clean up. The hall was quiet, filled only with the soft glow of Christmas lights. Maria hummed an African Christmas carol as she swept the floor. Jiwoo leaned against the wall, just watching her. "Why do you sing so much?" he asked suddenly. Maria looked up, surprised. "Because singing is joy. It reminds me that life is bigger than worries." In Nigeria, during Christmas, everyone sings, even people who can't hold a note. It's how we celebrate life. Jiwoo lowered his gaze. I don't remember the last time I celebrated anything. Maria's heart squeezed. She walked closer, setting the broom aside. Then maybe it's time you start. He met her eyes, and for the first time, his walls cracked enough for the truth to slip out. Maria, I don't know how. She smiled gently. That's okay. I can teach you. And in that quiet hall, under the Christmas lights, Jiwoo felt a new warmth spreading through him, one he couldn't deny anymore. But outside, unseen by them, Taehyun stood at the door, watching. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. He loved Jiwoo like a brother. But now, watching him look at Maria that way, Taehyun felt fear. Not for himself, but for his sister. He turned away into the snow, his mind heavy with worry. Days later, snow fell softly over the streets of Seoul as Maria and Jiwoo walked together, carrying small boxes of Christmas ornaments. Maria hummed softly, and Jiwoo found himself matching his steps to her rhythm without realizing it. You know, Maria said, smiling, I love this part of Christmas. Walking through lights, helping people, singing with children, it feels like the whole city is one big family. Jiwoo nodded quietly. I never thought about Christmas like that before. Maria looked at him, her eyes twinkling. Then you should join me more often. I'll teach you all the best parts. He smiled faintly, something soft in his chest. I'd like that. They reached the community hall, where children were already waiting to help decorate. Maria handed Jiwoo a small string of lights. Here, she said. You can start here. Jinwoo's hands were steady, but he glanced at her often, watching the way her fingers moved gracefully, tying ribbons and placing ornaments. She looked like she belonged to the lights themselves, as if she had been born to bring warmth to winter. A little boy tugged at his coat. Mister, can you help me hang this star? Jiwoo knelt down and carefully lifted the star. Maria guided his hands gently. There, she said, smiling brightly. Perfect. The children clapped. Jiwoo felt a strange joy bubbling up inside him. He had built empires, closed deals, and counted money, but nothing had ever made him feel this full. Maria leaned close, whispering, see? Christmas magic is real. You just have to let it in. He looked at her, and for the first time in years, Jiwoo let himself smile freely. Maybe, you're right. The next day, they visited a small market filled with handmade crafts and treats. Maria guided Jiwoo from stall to stall, introducing him to new smells and tastes he had never experienced. This is chin chin, she said, handing him a small fried snack. It's Nigerian, crunchy and sweet. Jiwoo took a bite, eyes widening. It's delicious. She laughed. I knew you'd like it. And this, she added, holding up a small bag of spiced nuts, is a Korean favorite. You have to try both to have the full experience. He tasted the nuts, then looked at her. You really blend both worlds beautifully. Maria smiled warmly. That's what makes Christmas with me interesting. And now, you're part of it too. He felt a warmth spread in his chest. Being with her was easy, natural, like the snow, soft, quiet, and beautiful. Later that evening, Jiwoo and Maria sat on the steps outside the community hall, watching children chase each other through the snow. The city lights reflected on the ground, turning every snowflake into tiny stars. Maria leaned her head on his shoulder. I've missed this, she said softly. I miss the snow, the music, the lights, and the feeling of home. Jiwoo wrapped his arm around her, careful but firm. I'm glad you're here, he said quietly. It feels better with you. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, words weren't needed. The snow fell around them, silent and pure, and Jiwoo felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace, happiness, and something warm spreading through his heart. Do you think Christmas can be like this every year? She whispered. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. With you, maybe it can. The following days were filled with laughter, decorating, and small adventures. Jiwoo learned to bake Nigerian Christmas treats under Maria's guidance. He helped hang lanterns outside homes, guided by her laughter. They shared hot ramen under glowing lights, singing carols in both Korean and African tunes. Every moment was simple, yet magical. Jiwoo had never realized that life could feel so light, so full, just by being with someone who loved it as much as Maria did. When they stood under the giant Christmas tree in the city square, Maria looked up at the twinkling lights. "Isn't it beautiful?" Jiwoo nodded, taking her hand in his. "Yes, but not as beautiful as this moment." Maria squeezed his hand. "Then let's make more moments like this." He smiled, knowing that this Christmas, snow, lights, and music was only the beginning. The morning of Christmas Eve arrived, and Seoul glimmered under a blanket of fresh snow. The city streets were alive with music, laughter, and the soft crunch of footsteps on icy paths. Jiwoo and Maria walked together, their fingers intertwined, carrying small gifts for the children at the community hall. "Are you excited?" Maria asked, her eyes sparkling brighter than the decorations around them. Jiwoo smiled softly. "I've never been this excited for anything before." She laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "You mean Christmas?" He shook his head, glancing at her. "No, being here with you." Maria's heart fluttered, warmth spreading through her chest. For weeks, they had decorated, baked, and sung together. She had shown him Nigerian carols, Korean traditions, and the joy of giving without expecting anything in return. And now, standing in the snow with him, she realized that he had become a part of her holiday magic, and she of his. When they reached the community hall, the children ran to them with bright smiles and laughter. Jiwoo helped hand out presents, wrapping his arms around little ones who clutched him in excitement. Maria watched him, her chest full of admiration. He wasn't the distant, disciplined man she had first met. He was warm, gentle, and completely present. As the sun began to set, the hall filled with glowing lanterns and the scent of festive treats. Maria pulled Jiwoo toward the center, under the tallest Christmas tree, its lights twinkling like stars. "You know," she whispered, "Christmas is about more than gifts. It's about moments like this. Moments that make your heart feel full." Jiwoo looked down at her, a soft smile spreading across his face. "I thought I was guarding my heart, but you've been preparing it for love all along." Maria's eyes widened, and then she laughed softly, brushing snowflakes from his coat. "Then maybe we should keep preparing it together." He nodded, taking both her hands in his. Around them, the children sang, the lights sparkled, and the snow continued to fall. It was peaceful, magical, and perfect. That night, Jiwoo and Maria didn't need words anymore. Their hearts spoke for them, full of warmth, laughter, and the gentle promise of a new beginning. A Christmas full of love, hope, and endless possibilities. Then Taehyun appeared before them, smiling. And in that quiet, glowing moment, with the world around them twinkling in celebration, they both knew this was only the beginning of something beautiful. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.